Hi there, I have here 3 of my beloved Nikon or Nikkor vintage lenses, the Nifty 50, the 28-85 and then the 135. 3 very good lenses that I have bought on eBay. And in the best spirit of Marie Kondo, I'm now asking myself, do they spark happiness? The answer is yes. I simply need to use them. But how can I do that? I think a very good way of doing that and get the best out of these lenses is to mount them on a modern mirrorless camera, the Sony a7R II. So let's give that a try. So in order to get the Sony a7R II to work with the Nikkor vintage lenses, I have bought a made at bones adapter. It's not an intelligent adapter. On the contrary, it is just a piece of metal, basically. But it enables me to put the lens technically or mechanically onto the camera. The camera will think that there's no lens mounted, but I will show you how to fix that. But basically there's no logic, no electronics, no nothing in this adapter. Also, I would always advise you to buy a camera strap, and if you don't buy a camera strap, then get these anchors so you can use one of your straps from another camera to go together with your camera. But I want to unbox all this, but as there are plenty of unboxing videos, I will just do like this. So here we are, unboxed and ready to go. The Metabones adapter is mounted here on the camera, as you can see, and I also have the Peak Design straps here ready to be used with my camera strap. So all you now have to do is to mount the lens, and it works very much like you would mount it, without the adapter. You just have to find the right. There isn't a dot or anything here on these old lenses, so you can normally see it in the way that the aperture controls, they need to point upwards, and then this one won't make a solid sound when it's in place, but it actually is. If I wanted to mount another lens like the little bigger one like this one, the logic is the same here, that there isn't really a dot to align with, so you just have to, and you can hear here it actually said a little click sound, where it was a little bit more difficult with the Nifty 50. But that's basically how it works, and then you have a full ready-to-go solution. Classic vintage lens, very modern mirrorless camera. In this setup, where I have a stupid or not an intelligent adapter here, everything is manual, meaning that the focus is manual and the aperture is manual. You have to select the aperture here by turning the ring on the lens, and also you have to focus here manually, both focus and zoom in, if that is the case. This one is a zoom, of course, a prime lens like a Nifty 50 here, then you only have the focus to worry about. But that's it. So all of that is controlled here on the lens, and the rest is then the shutter speed and the ISO is controlled on the camera body. But you need to make sure you have your Sony mirrorless camera set up in a way that enables you to work with the lens. And there are 4 things you need to do, I think, or you can check your parameters if they're set up correctly in order to work in a setup like this. So after switching on your camera, there's a little menu button here at top left. If you press that one, you will get into this menu system that many love to hate. And I'm just showing you here. On the top level, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 menus, and go back to number 1. So it's the second one here we need to go into for starters. And here in the sub menu, you need to go to the 4th tab sheet or whatever you want to call it. And down here, there's something called Release Without Lens, where you can enable and disable that. And you need to make sure that is enabled. And this is because the Sony camera body cannot see that there is a lens mounted. You can see that, but as there's no CPU contacts or any kind of information going on between the lens and the camera, you have to make sure that you tell the camera it's meaningful to release or take a picture without the lens mounted. The second thing you need to do, that is in the same main menu, but the second sub menu here, there's two peaking level selections here. You can make peaking level high, medium, low, or off. I would suggest that you take either medium or high, and then the color, a little bit subject to what you're shooting. Sometimes I use red, sometimes I use yellow. It's a little bit down to what the colors are in your picture, what's the easiest to see. But make sure those are switched on. They will give you very good guidance, I think, in the, you can say the overall, not the fine tuning, but the overall sharpness of your picture. That will give you some help. Last but not least, if you want to use the in-body image stabilization, you need to make sure that you have set the right length of the lens. Otherwise, the camera body cannot figure out how to compensate for vibrations in the most efficient way. So you need to go to menu number 8. Here it says steady shot on. That's the Sony name for image stabilization. Set that to on. And then you need to make sure also here that you have the right focal length. Now I have mounted the Nifty 50, so I will switch that to 50 as shown here. But you need to change that actually every time you change the lens and the length of the lens. So a little bit cumbersome. You can set it up so that, if I'm just showing you here, let me just, the bottom here, I believe it was C2 up here. I set that up. So when I press that one, I go directly to the menu where I select the length. So once you have set all this up, I think it's in the frequent changes you will be doing will be to the focal length and not to the other parameters. But now we are ready to shoot. So let's see what it looks like with both focus peak and also focus magnifier. Okay, so down here I have a little test chart. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 lenses, and I have a ruler that goes all the way back to the camera here. I start out here with, as you can see here on the screen, the yellow dots, they light up the lens that is the closest to the camera. And then as I turn ever so slowly the focus ring, you can see how the yellow dots, they walk alongside the lenses and finally ends up here. Now it's at the far end as the test chart. Then if I press C1 as I set it up, you can see then I can go close and I can go even closer. And if I want to, I can use the command dial to go this close, and then I can turn here. You can see I'm going back and forth between focus and out of focus, and here you can see it look like fireflies all over. And this is then completely in focus here. I'll just take a picture, boom, and that's it. Of course, this only works well for, you know, fairly stable objects, flying birds and football players and whatever. I think that will be difficult, but I think in many cases you can really get some good pictures out of the manual lens using this focus, so that you use the peaking thing to get your focus roughly right, like this, and then you use the magnification here to move closer, very close, and then see, whoop, there's my focus, and then you take your picture. It is as simple as that. And just to wrap things up here, I have the picture, one of the pictures I just took that you saw in the little clip with the 4 lenses and the ruler. And I'm zooming in here just to show you how sharp it actually is. Mind you, this is printed on an ordinary printer. It's not a test chart that I have bought. So actually what you see here as maybe a little bit unclarity is actually more related to the printer not being able to print sharp enough, rather than the lens or the picture here not being. This is very, very impressive sharpness. I don't think I can wish for more. So that was a little walkthrough of how to shoot with vintage lenses with absolutely no contact to the camera. I hope you enjoyed this little video and that some of your old vintage lenses may come to good use because of this video. Thank you for watching. As always, happy shooting. Take care. Bye bye.